All right, good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing tonight? Yeah, second time seeing some of you faces, so welcome back. So today we're going to be kicking off our Guts Digestive Health Workshop. And so there's a few years ago, I was at my church, and they had a guest speaker come in, and he was another pastor from a different church, and he was kind of sharing a story about him and his son ended up going on kind of a guy's trip, and he was sharing this whole story, and it, for me being in the health field, it really kind of shed some light on some things, and it's a good to kind of start the class tonight. But anyway, so him and his son were they're flying someplace, and they're going to do it right. So they wanted just to do guy stuff, and they get to the airport, and they're eating hot dogs and Coca-Cola and chips, and doing things like that, and scratching and grunting and whatever else guys do. And anyway, so him and his son was younger, like 4 or 5 at the time, and they get on the airplane, and his son kind of elbows his dad. He's like, "Daddy, my tummy doesn't feel very good," and they're just getting everybody settled on the airplane. And he's like, "Listen, I understand. We just gotta we can't move because we're about to take off." And so they get everybody settled, and then the plane starts taking off and climbing to reach cruising altitude. And his son, elbows him again. He's like, "Dad, my tummy really doesn't feel very good." And he's like, "Listen, just sit tight, maybe 5-10 more minutes, and then we can go to the bathroom." And a couple more minutes go by, and his son just turns over and loses his lunch all over in his dad's lap, and just covered in puke. And the stewardess kind of pokes her head out around the corner there and looking back, and the dad's looking out, to try to see, I'm just covered in puke right now. This is miserable. Can I get up and go do something about this? And she just shakes her head, like, "No, sorry, you got to sit there." So he had to sit there for another 10-15 minutes, which seemed like an eternity to do something. So I bring that story up because that situation didn't happen because of bad genes, maybe a little bit of bad luck on his part, but for the most part, 95+% was really because a lot of the bad choices that they were making in regards to what they're putting in their body before they got onto the plane. And so raise your hand real quick if you know somebody, or if you know somebody that deals with acid reflux. Okay, now keep your hands up. Now how about IBS? Constipation? Okay, so you look around the room and pretty much, that's majority hands go up. And the reason for that is because if you raised your hand, you're definitely not alone. Right now in the U.S., 80% of Americans are dealing with some sort of digestive related problem. So this is a kind of a really common issue. It's just been getting worse as time has gone on. And so that's why we're doing a class like this, because it's a lot of what we're dealing with when it comes to our digestive health is either being ignored, or they just cover up the symptoms in our healthcare profession with medications, or do unnecessary surgeries. And so we really want to help you guys in understanding, what are the 2 foundational systems that you need to really be focusing on when it comes to your health. What are some of the common causes for these problems? And so if you know what's causing them, then if you can undo that and start to make some changes, then you can really get your digestive health moving back in the right direction again, okay? So, we all heard, knowledge is powerful, but it's only powerful when you actually do what with it? You got to use it, right? So, there's no shortage of information out there when it comes to internet, podcasts. There's just so much information, but if you're not taking that information and actually starting to take action on it and applying it to your life, it's really just useless, okay? So that's my hope for you guys today, is that if you're not a patient here and you're looking to get plugged in, you want to get some help with this, we're going to give you the opportunity to do that, because I found that that's super important to have like-minded people around you that are able to support you and help you improve in these areas if you maybe not know necessarily what you need to be doing in that particular problem or area. And then the other thing is we're going to be giving you guys also some tips on maybe some things that you've been doing supplement-wise to help with healing your gut if you're dealing with some of these issues. Whenever we do classes like this, we always like to reward you guys for taking time out of your day to come here, and so we usually give you some discounts and things like that. So if that's something you're interested in, then we'll go over that. But let's go ahead and jump right in. So how strong is your foundation? Okay. Is anybody in here in the construction industry? Nobody? Oh, okay. So when it comes to construction, the foundation is like everything, okay? If you're building a house, the bigger the building, the more important the foundation is. And so if you're building a house or like an apartment or something like that, you want to make sure that that foundation is level. You're not putting it on, some clay or something like that that's going to, start to shift and erode over time, because what's going to happen to the building up above it? It's going to fall apart. Okay, and so I want to share the story. So there's a building. This actually happened with a huge apartment complex. This is a picture of it right here, down in Brazil. This is actually back in the mid 90s. It's called Palace 2. You can look this up if you're interested. But anyway, so they brand new apartment complexes at the time. They're right on the beach, so super, ritzy area in Brazil. And so what happened is the contractor was trying to cut corners, and he started using beach sand, empty piers, and things like that to construct this building to save a few bucks here or there. And so 3 years go by after they built this brand new apartment complex, and what ended up happening is there's 2 towers, and one of them collapsed just like out of the blue. And then they ended up eventually demolishing the other one. But so a bunch of people ended up dying in that accident. And so I bring this up because your foundation in construction is super, super important. This contractor got in big trouble for it, obviously. And so this is a building. You can build a new building if things break down or crack or fall apart. But the exact same thing happens with their health. Okay, so if you don't have a solid foundation with your health, and then with the 2 systems we're going to talk about in a second, then you're really setting yourself up for health issues or your health to start to collapse over time. And that's what we really want to help you guys with here tonight, because that's super important. So the 2 foundational body systems, and this is on your guys' note sheet here, are number 1, it's your nervous system, and number 2, your digestive system. So your nervous system is really the most important. It's the first system that's developed when your body's being created from 2 cells, because for anything else to work in your body, your heart, your lungs, your digestive system, for anything to work and function, your brain has to be constantly communicating with those organs to tell them what and when they need to do, whatever that is that they need to do. So you got to make sure that your nervous system's working properly. And then number 2 is the digestive system. So that's basically like your liver, your stomach, your intestine, your colon, gallbladder. So those organs make up your digestive system. And a lot of people don't realize how important your digestive system is. We actually have 80% of our immune system comes from our digestive tract. You have more microbes and bacteria in your digestive tract, 10 times more than you do cells in your entire body. And so these bacteria and the balance in the bacteria is super important with your immune system, like we mentioned, your hormone balance, obviously your digestion. So all these things, your mood, everything is controlled and regulated a lot by what's going on within your gut, which is why we're going to be spending a good bit of time and kind of focusing on that for tonight. And we'll also talk about the nerve system a little bit as well. And so when people have issues that come up with their stomach or digestive tract, oftentimes your body will give you these warning signs, okay? So a symptom is a warning sign. It's your body letting you know that there's a problem there, okay? And so, in all honesty, it's your body doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason. So that little boy that I was talking about earlier that ate a bunch of junk food and ended up throwing up, was his body doing something right or something wrong? Something right, right? So it didn't belong in his body. It was making his body sick. And so what did his body do? It got rid of it, right? So if you come down with the flu or whatever, you're throwing up or going to the bathroom or something like that, that's your body doing what it needs to do to heal you and get you well as fast as possible. If we start taking things from the outside to suppress our symptoms and maybe make you feel a little bit better temporarily, but you're honestly keeping your body sick and working against this intelligence that's already inside your body that's trying to heal you by doing that, okay? And so when it comes to digestive health, I mean, these are some of the common symptoms that people have. So reflux, constipation, autoimmune issues, depression, anxiety, that's a big thing these days, allergies, and so the list goes on. And so most of the time when people have some of these warning signs come up, then what are they doing? Where do they go?
They go to the doctor and they get medicine.
Exactly. Yeah. So 9 times out of 10, people end up going into their doctor, and chances are they're going to walk out of there with some sort of medication. So the thing to understand is that symptom due to lack of those prescription pills in your body?
Absolutely
not. Absolutely not. So it's not fixing the cause of the problem. All it's really doing is what? Covering up the symptoms. So back to what I was talking about here, you got the check engine light. So if you're driving around in your car, and the oil light or check engine light comes on, anybody in here think it's a good idea to grab some tape and cover up the light and keep, pretend like the problem's not there? You've done that? Okay, well, hopefully you haven't done that. Yeah. So as annoying that light is, it's letting you know that there's a problem there, and if you just cover it up with some tape or whatever, pull the light out of the dash or whatever, and keep driving down the road, you're going to have a much bigger problem on your hands. And that's exactly what happens with these issues as well, because we're just covering up the symptoms. And before you know it, some of the side effects of the medications that you're taking are leading to other problems, which therefore they put you on other medications for. Okay? So of all the countries out there in the world, guess what country takes the most medications on the planet right now? We do. So we're 5% of the world population. We consume about 70% of the drugs on the planet. And we're, according to the World Health Organization, which isn't really somebody I would always trust, but anyway, so they rank us 37th in the world when it comes to overall health. And so we're behind countries like Cuba, Malta, some of these other countries, third world countries sometimes in certain areas. And it's pretty sad for, all the, we do the most of all these things, okay? And so, we get the most tests, we take the most drugs, we have the most, surgeries of majority of other countries out there, and like we said, we're really one of the sickest. So those things do not equal more health. There's a time and place for those, but they're not going to really address the root cause of the problem. All they're really doing is just masking the symptoms again. So, and when it comes to the surgery, so if the drugs don't work, then often they'll do a bunch of expensive tests to figure out, okay, yeah, well, it looks like we need to take your gallbladder out, or we got to remove part of your colon, or whatever the case is. And so the thing you got to understand is that our bodies were created with all the organs that are inside of us for a reason. It's been like this for thousands of years. If they're in our bodies, it's because they serve a purpose. Okay, and the problem with our current system and model is that they don't really look to find out what's causing the organs to shut down. They just said, oh, this isn't working well, so we'll just go ahead and take that out. You probably don't need that anyway. Well, that doesn't work very good, and we're talking more about that here in just a second. And so that's really want to focus on today, is helping you guys understand where gut health actually starts from. And it starts way back even before you guys are even born. Okay? It starts with your mom's nutrition, because the health of the mom and her microbiome and the bacteria that's on her skin, in her digestive tract, in her birth canal, all that is passed on to the baby when they're born. And so they've done studies, actually, even things that have to do with your genetics. Duke University did a study on mice that had this particular gene. It was called the agouti gene. And mice that had this gene active ended up being overweight. Instead of having brown fur, they ended up having kind of orangish color fur. And because they're overweight and just tended to overeat, they ended up getting a lot of the issues that result from that. And so all they did with this particular study is they changed the diet of the mom before she had her babies. And they, had added certain vitamins and things like that. And she had perfectly normal babies. And so it's the environment that turns those genes on or off. It has nothing to do really with your actual genes itself. And so the health of the mom is super, super important, and her microbiome and how her digestive tract is doing. The next thing is talking about how the babies are actually born, okay? So they're, back in the 60s, the rates of C-sections were right around 4 to 5%. Okay, any guesses on what they are right now?
Probably like 75 or 85%.
Not quite that bad. No. So, but some hospitals are definitely up there. Across the board in the U.S., it's about 32% in 2019, according to CDC. Yeah. So some hospitals are worse. They can be upwards of 60% C-sections that they do. And so there's a time and place for those things. Definitely, in this right situation, that's something that needs to be done. However, a lot of times it's being overutilized more for convenience than it is for the health of the mom or the baby. And the problem is with that is that baby now misses out on passing through the birth canal, which is where they get their full kind of dose of probiotics and microbes that they need to help with their digestion, help with their immune system, all that stuff. And so they've done studies that have shown that babies that have C-sections have a much greater risk of allergies, much greater risk of asthma, autoimmune problems, even issues like brain issues, but behavioral problems, because so much of that is tied in with the health of the gut. So breastfeeding, again, so that's another thing. So that's when another kind of dose of those healthy bacteria, the baby gets most of their immune system from the mom, because theirs isn't obviously developed yet. And so again, when moms don't breastfeed, or maybe they don't do it as long as maybe they could be, or they use formula, and again, sometimes that's a necessary situation, but then the kids are missing out on again a lot of that immunity. It's that things that are helping to develop their gut and digestive system. And so I just put up, this is an example of just a everyday formula. And so you look at the number one ingredient on here is what? Corn syrup solids. So great, we're giving our kids just loads of sugar right away. And then the next ingredient is sugar. And then they have a bunch of other kind of fortified vitamins and things like that. But then you look down here and they have, where's it at? So cupric sulfate right here. So one of the ingredients in here is cupric sulfate. Does anybody know what that's used in? It's a germicide and a fungicide that they use in fertilizers. So they put it on the soils to kill the microbes and the bad bacteria and things like that in the soils. So guess what do you think that's doing for kids in their gut? It's doing the exact same thing in there. So that really causes a lot of issues for babies. And then now we have what's called the hygiene hypothesis. Anybody heard of that before? So there's a number of studies on this, but basically they find that that kids raised in like more like farm type of settings where they're put animal fur in their mouth and eating dirt and rolling around in the mud puddles and stuff like that. Yeah, there you go. Versus kids that grow up in overly sanitized environments that everything's Lysoled and you got hand sanitizer everywhere and things like that. It's the kids that grow up in the farm kind of setting have a much stronger immune system. They get sick less often, and the reason for that is because nothing gets stronger from avoidance. Okay, and I'll say again, nothing gets stronger from avoidance. You can't get stronger by avoiding gym and working out. That not going to work out too good for you. So your immune system, that's why kids when they're growing and one of the stages that they go through when they're younger is everything goes in their mouth. Okay, they're throwing dirt in their mouth, eating sand, Yes, yeah.
I have a 1-year-old right now.
Exactly. Yeah. So everything goes in their mouth, and so that is part of the way that we're designed, because it helps our body and our immune system develop and be exposed to these different germs and viruses and bacteria and things like that on a gradual basis, and it helps to build our immune system up. And so when we avoid those things, like we're doing a lot of right now with you go into every store and on the airports and things like that, schools, they're using all these like super toxic hand sanitizers, which many of them have been pulled off because they're finding that they cause cancer and have these other chemicals in there, and just destroying the germs, which also on our skin, everything affects our microbiome, and so it's really actually making these problems worse because we're suppressing our immune system and actually building it up and being exposed to these things. So. And then the next thing is antibiotics or vaccines, which also have antibiotics in them, amongst other heavy metals and other toxins. So most antibiotics are used actually on animals, not on humans. Only about 20% are used on humans. So if you're getting conventional type of meats, then you're getting a lot of those antibiotics through eating the animals that therefore were antibiotics were used on them. And so that is a big thing, because that's going to get into your system and start to wipe out a lot of the healthy bacteria that you have in your digestive tract as well. So, and then there's other medications too. We're going to talk more about those in just a second. So anyways, you can see it's not just necessarily one thing. It's a lot of things that all really add up and can really affect your gut, but it all stems back to even before you're even born on your potential gut health. And so I just want to spend a couple minutes here talking about acid reflux, because This is one of the common things that we see people come in here all the time taking these sort of medications. These are the number 3 leading drug medications in the US right now. Profits, this is 2014, profits were 10 billion. It's probably much more than that at this point. So most of the time people are misunderstanding that acid reflux, because they're told this, is due to too much stomach acid, but it actually is due to too little stomach acid. So there's a little valve here, it's called your esophageal sphincter, and it's sensitive to the pH, which is the acidic level in your stomach. And so when you eat something, then your body changes its physiology and it increases the acid production in your stomach, because you need more acid to start to break down the foods that you're gonna digest and that you just ate. And so it increases the acid production so it can start to break that down. Now, if your body, so when it hits a certain point, this valve closes so the acid can't get up into your esophagus. If it doesn't get low enough, then this stays open, and then that's where the acid can kind of slosh up into your esophagus, and that's where people get the acid reflux. So it's actually due to too little stomach acid instead of too much. And so what people are told that they need to do is take these acid-lowering medications, which is a big problem because you can see some of the effects of that. So it decreases nutrient absorption, increases risk of bone fractures, infections, because it affects your immune system. And so it sets you up for autoimmune issues. So some of you may have seen, there's lawyer ads all over the place. You guys seen the lawyer ads on TV for these things? Just last year, they pulled Zantac off the market because it was, they found that it contained a chemical, NDMA. I'm going to probably butcher the name of what that is. It's nitrous, I can't even, methylamine, diamine or something like that. But anyway, so it's a known carcinogen. It's basically in the same category as cigarettes, and that's one of the things that's in those medications. So they found that taking these regularly increases the risk of stomach cancer by 800%. And so they're not meant to be used long term. Short term maybe can help you out, but the longer that you use those, it's going to make the problem worse if you try to get off of them. And you want to try to avoid them, as much as possible at all costs. Anybody have any questions? So when it comes to our bodies, and we have these different approaches, so you have kind of our medical model or allopathic model right now that basically looks at the body as a bunch of parts, okay? If you have this part's not working, here we'll give you this to try to fix whatever it's low in, or if it's too high, then we'll try to give you something to bring that down. Or if that part isn't working, we'll take that part out and give you a new part, or just take it out and not do anything, pretend like you don't need that part. And so the reality is that that's not how our body works, okay? Like I said before, our bodies are created with all these organs, and everything works symbiotically together to help you get and stay healthy. So your body works a lot more like an ecosystem, and especially within your gut is like its own little ecosystem in itself. And so when you look at an ecosystem, and so all these different animals and insects and everything rely on the other. So I'm from Minnesota, some of you know that, and the state bird there is the mosquito, right? And they're actually bigger than that, and they're vicious, and I can't stand them. That's one of the reasons I actually moved out here. But anyway, as much as I hate mosquitoes and would love to see all those little buggers die, they serve a purpose, because if you just wipe out all the mosquitoes, well, what eats the mosquitoes? The frogs, the fish, the dragonflies, everything else. So you can see by taking one thing out of nature, in the balance that's there, it causes a cascade of effects that affects other things down the way. And there's a cool video, if you guys are interested, on YouTube. You can check this out. It's from Yellowstone Park. They looked at, it's called How Wolves Change Rivers. Have you guys seen that? Some of you, yeah, it's really cool. I usually play that, but it's like a 5-minute video. But anyways, you can check that out. And so how wolves change the course of rivers, or something like that. Yeah. So basically, they looked at how back in, I think it was the early 1900s, they took the wolves out of Yellowstone Park, and as a result of that, they started to notice that the rivers changed course, and the vegetation, certain animals were thriving, and things like that, because it threw off the whole balance in the ecosystem. And so then they added the wolves back in, which started to feed on some of the elk and things like that. And so the vegetation grew back because there's less elk to eat all the the plants and everything along the riverbanks. So the rivers went back into the normal course that they're designed to be in. And so it's really kind of just neat in that. But that's the exact same thing that happens with our body. So we start adding things in, taking things out that are designed to be there, then it throws off the whole balance in the ecosystem in our body, and we don't want that. So these are the top 3. Hold on, let me just double check. Did I miss anything here? I missed number 3. So yeah, so a prescription is a permission slip to continue to live the same lifestyle, not fix the cause. So that's basically what they're doing. So yeah, you have terrible acid reflux because your body's rejecting maybe some of the foods that you're eating, or your body just really stressed or whatnot. And so your doctor just says, here, take this. It'll bring your symptom about, but they never ask you about the other issues. Hey, what's your diet look like? How's your stress levels? These sorts of things. And so you don't make any of those changes with your lifestyle. You're just relying on this medication to mask your symptom. And like we talked about, it just leads to more issues down the road.
What was number 2?
A symptom, yeah. It's the body doing the right thing at the right time for the right reason.
Thank you.
Yep.
And what was number 3?
Prescription's number 3. Yep. So these are the top 3 gut destroyers. So these are, if you just made a few changes in these things, then we'll start to see some improvements with your gut health. So number 1, it's stress. So stress is something that we're noticing more and more of with pretty much everybody these days, from worried about losing their jobs to things online, and just all this kind of different dynamic going on. And so stress, the problem with stress is that it shuts down your digestion. And if you have prolonged or chronic stress, so short-term stress is actually a good thing. If you want to get stronger or get smarter, then you need to stress your brain, stress your muscles to to be able to improve in those areas. But chronic stress is really where it becomes a problem, because that shuts your digestion down, it weakens your immune system, and it's going to affect certain hormones. It increases what's called cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and that impacts the balance of the bacteria in your digestive tract as well. So it increases, so normal healthy bacteria can convert into more problem or bad bacteria simply because the hormones that are circulating in your bloodstream. So stress is a big problem. Toxins is number 2. And so we're surrounded by toxins. It could be from the foods that you're eating, the water that you're drinking. So one of the key things that they put, especially if, with city water, is chlorine. Okay, and why do they put chlorine in the water? To kill the bacteria. So if you're drinking water that's full of chlorine, what do you think that's doing to the bacteria in your body? It's killing the bacteria in your body, exactly. So so that's causing imbalances in your gut. The medications, we talked about those a little bit. So all these sorts of, your cleaners, your personal care products, all these sorts of things can really start to add up over time. So your body's kind of like a bucket. So you start adding toxins in. If it's just a few here or there, you're probably not going to notice any issues with it, but it's going to build up to a certain point, and that's when people start to have these autoimmune issues, allergies, skin conditions, things like that because of the toxin overload. And then the third thing is just having poor diet. So consuming a lot of foods that are like food allergies. So gluten's a big one. Dairy is a big one, especially conventional dairy, because you're going to be getting a lot of antibiotics with that. Sometimes nuts and seeds and things like that if you're not getting the right kind. Bad fats, sugar inflames the gut as well. So these are all things that you want to be working on.
Can I?
Yeah, you got a question?
Yeah. So if a person is allergic to casein, are they going to be allergic to whey protein?
Depends on the protein. We've had people that have been like lactose intolerant or allergic to that, and if you get a good quality one, sometimes they might be able to do that. The other option is you can do like a plant-based protein, or you can do like we have bone broth protein and stuff.
I was always wondering.
So what happens then with all these factors? So the stress, you have the toxins, you have poor diet. So what it can lead to is what we call leaky gut. How many of you heard of leaky gut before? Oh wow, cool. So quite a few. Yeah. So these, what's that? Yeah. So these little cells here, that's like the lining of your intestines. Okay, so normally there's these little junctions that only allow the nutrients from what's in your intestines to get through and get into your bloodstream and go to wherever they need to go. What happens with all these things, once they get into your system over time, they can damage or puncture holes in your gut and lead to what's called leaky gut. So what happens with that is now you have some of these toxins, the pathogens, you have food particles or larger proteins that aren't supposed to be in your bloodstream getting through, and your body doesn't recognize them, and so it actually starts to mount a immune response to those foreign bodies or foreign things that aren't supposed to be in your bloodstream. Okay, so initially when you're in the early stages of developing leaky gut, then that's where people have these food intolerances. Okay, so those are the the allergies to various different foods. It could be dairy, it could be wheat, it could be whatever the case is. And so if that isn't addressed and those things eliminated, it just continues to get worse, and it leads to more like autoimmune problems, other like thyroid issues, IBS, Crohn's, MS, things like that. So you want to really start to work on this as soon as possible, because it's kind of a little bit of a process to heal your gut. It does take a little bit of time. And so these are the 5 steps to actually doing that. So I'm going to just kind of run through these real quick here, then we're going to go through each individual step in a second in more detail. So number 1, it starts with removing the bad stuff. So all the toxins, the bad foods, stress, all those things that we mentioned that are destroying your gut, you want to start to eliminate those things as much as possible. You're not going to be able to eliminate all the toxins or things like that, but the more that you can minimize that, the better you're going to be. And then you're going to start to replace those bad things with good, healthy things that are going to help to heal and support your gut and your health and your immune system. And then once you can add in more of the good stuff, then most of the time people need to kind of go through a phase where they're working on rebalancing and repairing, because when you're been living a poor lifestyle for years, it throws off the balance and the bacteria in your microbiome and in your gut. And so you have to work on repopulating that with good quality bacteria that's going to help with your immune system, and then realign. So everybody get those down? Remove, replace, repair, rebalance, and then realign. So we're going to run through those one by one. So number 1 starts with stress. So we're just talking about that a couple minutes ago. So what are some things that you can do to remove stress? You can't eliminate all stress, but there are certain things that you can do to help your body handle stress more effectively. So start with exercising, going out, walking outside, getting some sunshine, listening, doing like a meditation program or something like that. Anybody have the Calm app on their phone? So all it takes is just a few minutes. You can do it at your lunch break in the morning. And they have guided meditations in there, so that's a great way to help with reducing stress. You can also do, anybody heard of box breathing before? A couple people. So it's a technique that's developed by the Navy SEALs, and so you breathe in through your nose for about 3 to 5 seconds, hold your breath for 3 to 5 seconds, and then you breathe out for 3 to 5 seconds, and you just kind of rest for 3 to 5 seconds. So you kind of go through this box type of pattern. And it's a super easy way, like if you're having a stressful day, you just close your eyes and do that for a minute, 2 minutes, and you'll feel a huge change in your physiology because it calms your body down. And so that's a great tool to be using. Your nutrition, so big one to be aware of is GMOs. Who knows what that stands for?
Genetically modified organisms.
Exactly, yeah. So with GMOs, one of the things they genetically alter these plants to be able to withstand more chemicals and pesticides and herbicides that they spray on them. And so a lot of them are basically, the pesticides are designed to basically blow up the stomach of whatever insect it is that's usually on there. And so if that's happening with the bugs, what's going to be happening in you? Same thing. And so that's what can happen and again lead to leaky gut. Processed foods, the bad fats, sugars, those are going to cause a lot of inflammation in your gut, which we want to keep down. The gluten, casein, we're talking about that. Alcohol and caffeine also are big ones that can cause inflammation. So some of you, like myself, I like coffee. So you might be wondering, how am I going to get off the coffee, especially getting into the winter time of year? And so depending on where you're at with your gut, then you may need to take, at least cut back on that for a while, and then you can start to introduce that once we start to get your gut healthy again. But that also makes a big difference on the kind of coffee that you're getting. Okay, so if you're just getting cheap coffee, a lot of times coffee is one of the most sprayed crops with pesticides and herbicides. So you want to make sure try to getting organic, shade grown, things like that are big things to be aware of when you're buying your coffee. And then medications, so minimizing those as much as possible. How many of you have a water filter at home, like a house filter or something like that? So that's good. So that way you can eliminate the chlorine. Who remembers the issue that we had just a couple years ago with out in Airway Heights? Yeah, so they're finding flame retardants in the water that people are drinking literally for years. And so if you don't have a water filter, you got to get one set up on your house, or at least get one that you can set on the sink, and the water that you're drinking, then you want to be using that. We have a whole house one, so even our shower water, everything is all filtered, so we're not bringing that in. Next one is replace. So you want to be replacing the stress with those mindful practices that we talked about, adding in some of those gut healing foods. So coconut milk, those are excellent foods to be healing your gut with. Bone broth. So we make our own bone broth a lot of times. That's really great for your immune system, heals your gut, brings inflammation down. It is a little bit of a process. How many of you made your own bone broth before? All right. So it's a little bit of a process that can be kind of stinky too, which your spouse may not enjoy. So if you're not into that or just don't want to put the time in, then you can also we have a bone broth protein, which I don't have one up there, but they're at the top shelf over there. And so that's a great way. You can just mix it in with your smoothies, using a shaker cup if you need a quick snack or something like that. My kids love it, just in a shaker cup mixed in with the greens. And they see me making it, and I hardly get to drink any of it because I just snatch it out of my hand. So fermented veggies, those are great for getting some of the good bacteria back in your gut. Cultured dairy, sprouted nuts and seeds. So it's very helpful to sprout your nuts and seeds, especially like almonds and things like that, because if you don't soak them or sprout them, then it makes it hard for your body to digest those, especially if you have gut issues.
So how do you do that?
You just soak them. You just soak them for like a night, pretty much.
Really?
In water, yeah.
Warm water or
Just put them in the fridge, soak them in water.
That's it?
Yep.
Thank you.
So if you can't eat the seeds because of the stomach and stuff like that, could you soak them and grow them and then juice them?
You could do that as well.
Okay.
I'm not sure what the difference would be as far as nutrient differences, but
Like wheat juice them and stuff like that?
yeah. And then replacing your bad cleaners with healthy ones. It's best to make your own because then you know what's in there. So if you guys use essential oils or anything like that, you can make a lot of your own cleaners with water and essential oils or vinegar and baking soda. That's your friend pretty much cleans like almost everything. And then getting restful sleep. So part of
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
How do you know how much your body needs to sleep? I've always wondered.
Yeah, I mean, they have guidelines that, the average adult is anywhere, 7 to 9 hours, somewhere in that range. But it's honestly going to depend on your lifestyle. So like professional athletes, they're training more and their body's going through a lot more stress. And so they tend to need more sleep than, the general person. But if you have a stressful job or, you have, 8 kids at home or whatever the case is, then you're dealing with a lot more stress and you might need more sleep. So it just kind of depends on where you're at with your lifestyle.
Probably more like 9 for just
Probably, yeah.
healing from the trauma.
Yeah, so probably going to be on the higher end. Yeah, you're going to be, yeah. So sleep is super important because that's where your body does all the healing and repair. And so if people aren't getting adequate amount of sleep or getting good sleep, then your body's always functioning on a deficit and it doesn't actually heal. So especially your brain, yeah. Yeah.
Is constantly needing sleep, you're always tired, can that be related to gut health?
Yes. Yeah, that's one of the common symptoms that people have, gut issues, because your gut is directly communicating with your brain through your vagus nerve. And so if you're constantly fatigued or, just your emotions or moods off, kids with behavioral problems, things like that, that can be actually linked to their gut health or imbalances in their microbiome. Yeah.
So would you suggest like someone who's always tired, like start with like the cleaning out your body and stuff, not just like trying to keep yourself awake?
Yeah. So yeah, you're probably going to want to go through, work on healing your gut for sure. So, and if you have gut issues, then that can eventually lead to like thyroid problems as well, which can also cause people to feel fatigued and tired a lot as well. So, but yeah, the gut is usually the first place you want to start. Yeah, good questions. Any other questions? Cool. So when it comes to adding things into your diet and replacing the bad foods with the good quality foods, this is, their situation is going to be a little bit different depending on, your needs and what your lifestyle looks like. And, if you're training for, Ironman, or, if you're just doing the mom and dad type stuff or whatever. So, but this is kind of just a general breakdown on what you want to be shooting for as targets for your calorie consumption. So ideally, you want about 65% of your calories should be coming from good quality fats. Why do you think that is? Exactly. So you get more energy per gram from fats than you do with protein or carbs. So fat is your body's ideal fuel source. And so some examples of healthy fats like coconut oil, grass-fed organic eggs, grass-fed meats, nuts, seeds, things like that, chia, all those sorts of things are excellent sources of fat, avocados. So you're going to be getting a majority of those from fats. Good clean proteins, about 30% or so, and then up the top you got your vegetables. You don't see a lot of fruits on there. Why would that be? Sugar. Yeah. So even though fruits are better than just consuming sugar, candy, or something like that, because you got the fiber that comes along with it, so it slows the absorption. You still, especially if you're trying to heal your gut, you want to cut down on some of those, because a lot of the bad bacteria, they thrive on especially sugar. And so if you're eating a lot of sugars or things that turn to sugar like rice, pastas, cereals, then that's going to cause some issues for your gut. So this is the bone broth protein I was talking about before. And so basically you're getting all the benefits of the bone broth, but it's just much more convenient, tastes good. So you can use this in your smoothies. It's excellent for gut health, skin health, your joints, because it's got glucosamine, chondroitin, all these things that are excellent for your joints, skin, hair, all that kind of stuff. So, so that's what I use every single day. I actually make a huge pitcher of a smoothie in the morning, and I drink 3 smoothies throughout the day. That's pretty much all I eat, and then I go have dinner when I get home. But the next thing is vitamin D3. So most people in the United States are deficient in this one vitamin, which actually works more like a hormone in your body. But it has anti-inflammatory properties. It's super important for your immune system. If people had adequate levels of vitamin D, then that greatly lowers your risk for complications with COVID, getting the flu. It can reduce a breast cancer risk by over 70%. So all these things can be improved by just this one vitamin. So that's why if there's one thing I tell people that you got to be taking, it's the vitamin D, because chances are you're deficient in it, and it can make a huge difference for you. Yeah.
Can it also lower the risk of stomach cancers if it's also doing the breast cancer?
Yeah, and pretty much, I don't know what the actual statistics are on that, but yeah, the better levels that you have of vitamin D, the better off that you're going to be. Yeah. So you want to, if you haven't had your levels tested, you should do that. You want to be between 60 and 90 nanograms per mole on average. Right. So.
What are natural sources of vitamin D3?
You can get a small amount of it through foods that you eat, like salmon or things like that. You're not going to really get it very much. The best source is from the sun, but as we get into the winter, the sun doesn't get high enough, and we're not outdoors in the sun enough. Especially with your skin exposed because it gets cold. And so especially getting into the winter months, people need to be supplementing for it. Yeah. So you can, I recommend 5 to 10,000 IUs a day for maintenance or wellness. If you need to get your levels up, then you want to be doing probably a higher dose for a short period of time, maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, depending on where you're at. And then you can start to drop that down. But yeah, especially getting into the winter, you want to up that for sure.
And this is a 2,000 capsule?
These are the ones that we have here. They're 5,000. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. So if you have any questions on these or whatnot, let me know.
That says just vitamin D though. That doesn't say vitamin D3.
It is D3. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I don't know why it doesn't say that on there,
Okay.
but it is. Yeah. And another thing with the vitamin D is also having vitamin K2 in there as well. Yeah, or else you don't absorb it as well. So once you get through that and you make those changes, adding in the good foods and everything with your diet and replacing the cleaners and all that, then you want to get into phase 3 and 4 here, which is the rebalance and repair phase. So there's certain things that are important with, when you get the inflammation down. So L-glutamine is an amino acid, and that's it helps to heal and repair the lining of your digestive tract. So if you have irritable bowel syndrome or the leaky gut, things like that we talked about, that's really important to be using that. Aloe vera also, you can get the juice that you drink, which can decrease the inflammation. Both of those are actually our GI rescue. So this is something too that you can just mix with water. It probably tastes a little bit better if you just mix it in with your smoothies, which is what I would suggest doing. But that can really help to heal and repair your gut, seal that back up. And then if you have like acid reflux issues, or if you've been dealing with gut problems for quite a while, then it might be a good place to start to add in some digestive enzymes. Okay, so what those basically are is your body makes these enzymes when you're eating food to kind of start to break down the food that you're eating. And so adding in some digestive enzymes kind of supports that process. It helps your body break down the food more effectively so you can digest it. It's not as much strain and stress on your gut to be able to do that until you can kind of repair that and it's working better. So these are we have some enzymes here. Those are the ones that we carry. And then also adding in some of the probiotics. We're actually out of those at the moment. But if you're interested in getting some, we'll be putting an order probably soon and getting some more in. And then we also have, this is a leaky gut formula. So this has other kind of adaptogen herbs, which helps with the cortisol that I mentioned before, helps your body respond better to the cortisol, and has the L-glutamine in there too, so we mentioned that. So those are key things when it comes to healing and repairing, sealing your gut back up. And then the fifth thing is realign. So none of this other stuff even matters if your brain can't get the signals out to those organs. So if I cut the nerves going out to your digestive system, what's going to happen to them? They shut down, right? So we all know, so my son, he's 5 now, but when he was 3, he fell down the stairs and hit his tooth at the bottom of the stairs, damaged his tooth and the nerve going to his tooth. And so when you damage a nerve going to the tooth, guess what happens to your tooth? It dies, right? So what happens if you damage any of these nerves coming off the spine, so you don't cut the nerves, but if they're damaged, there's a little bit of pressure there, then those organs don't work and function like they're supposed to, okay? And so you can go a month without food. People go days without water. You can only make it minutes without air, but if you cut those nerves, then things shut down right away. And so what happens from people's job, car accidents, sports injuries, how you sleep at night, that causes misalignments or what we call subluxations in the spine. And those are misalignments that damage the nerves, and it blocks the signals getting from the brain out to the organs. Okay, so if that's happening down here in your lower back, well, guess what? That can be causing the back pain that you're dealing with, but where else do those nerves go? They go out to your colon, they go out to your digestive system, they go out to your reproductive organs, they go out to all those things. So when people have problems down there, it can cause constipation, it can cause acid reflux, it can cause problems with their monthly cycles, sciatica, all those sorts of things can come from the lower back. If it's up in your neck, that can cause, yes, the neck pain, but numbness in your hands, thyroid problems, high blood pressure, allergies, all those sorts of things can all come from up there, but also can cause digestive problems up there too. So this is a patient that came in, and she was brought to class like this, similar to this by another patient. Pretty much their whole church at one time was coming in here. But anyway, so she didn't have any back pain. She had a little bit of stiffness here and there. She had some issues with her shoulder, but she had terrible acid reflux to the point where she had to sleep with one of those wedge pillows, and so she was scared to death to get adjusted. And her friends talked her into coming to one of these classes, And she's like, all right, fine, I'll get my spine checked out and see what's going on there. And so we found out this is her lower back here. And so her hips are rotated. She has kind of a slight scoliosis, 10-degree curve right in her lower thoracic, upper lumbar area. Okay, and guess where those nerves go? They go right to the stomach, they go right to the colon. And so this is exactly why she's dealing with the acid reflux problems. And so we started adjusting her, correcting her spine. And this is a picture of her. She's dumping her acid reflux medications in the drug freedom jug because she didn't need those anymore. Okay, and because of that, she was moving better. She started getting back into exercising again, just more energy. And so once you start making one healthy habit, it leads to other ones. And it all started really with her friend bringing her to class so we could really teach her where real health comes from. And so this is another patient that came in and came to another class similar to this. And she was diagnosed with MS. She was on like 9 medications, walked with a cane. She had acid reflux problems, high blood pressure. The list goes on. Anyway, so of all the doctors that she'd been to, and she'd been to a lot of them, with all the stuff that she's dealing with, never once did they look at her spine and did an x-ray and talked to her about the curve in her neck. So she should have a nice 45-degree curve in her neck. Hers is actually going the wrong direction here, and her head's going way forward. And so that's damaging and shutting down the communication of the brain out to the body. And so we started to work with her. This is over about 3, maybe 4 months. And we started to get some of the curve back. Her posture improved. And in that time frame, she was off, it was like 5 of the 9 medications that she's taking. All of her MS medications, she didn't need those anymore. Wasn't walking the cane anymore. And really just night and day difference when she came in, just her mood. Because when you're in constant pain like that, and you're on all these drugs, you're just, basically a zombie. And so it was really cool to see just a transformation just in her attitude and just being able to talk to her and get her off those things that we've got her healthy. So that's what we love to do. But it's got to start with, if you haven't had your spine checked, then this is the foundation. You got to start here. Okay, all the gut stuff that if you have a problem with your spine, it's all that other stuff isn't really going to make that much of a difference. Okay, and so whenever we do classes like this, you guys are here because somebody brought you here. So we always extend an opportunity to get your spine checked. If you'd like to do that, maybe haven't done that before. And so what it looks like is we do a history, we do an exam, we check your posture. More than likely, we'll probably do some x-rays to see where your spine's at, what's going on there. Normally, and then we'll have to come back for a report of findings. We go over all the results and what's going on with your spine. And if it's something we can help you out with, we'll kind of lay out, here's the plan looks like. And so normally those 2 appointments are anywhere 160 to 210 for those visits. Since you guys are here, then we give people an opportunity at these special classes, just 27 that covers both those appointments. At least you'll walk out of there with informed idea of where you're at with your health, and you can make the best decision for you from that point forward. So if that's something you're interested in, the ladies can help you out with that before you leave tonight. And then, as I mentioned before, so when we do classes like this, we always give you guys a special discount. So we're doing 15% off any supplements. If you get 3 or more, you get a bigger discount, so 20% off there. And then we have our next class coming up next week, Wednesday, the Healing Faster class. And so that's at 6:15. So, what's that? Oh, okay. Anybody have any questions? Yeah.
It's actually more about like the spine. So my dad, he is so lazy, he will not go to a chiropractor, and he has my brothers walk on his back.
Okay.
How bad is that for him? He's been doing it for years.
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. Yeah.
What
So
does
that.
do? Because I think he does it because he hears the cracks.
Yeah. So that's a question that comes up quite a bit about people popping their own back or spine, and thinking that's the same as like an adjustment from a chiropractor. That's not the case. So the areas that are, it's not very specific. So the areas that may be moving or popping, maybe ones that don't need to be adjusted or are moving too much, and so that can be causing more misalignments or causing instability with the spine by doing that. So, yeah. So that not the best.
Not good.
Yeah.
Probably counterproductive.
Yeah.
The lady with the MS, did she totally get rid of that, or is she still working on it, or did that?
Yeah, I mean, she's doing a lot better. I mean, she's not currently coming in here actively as a patient at the moment. I wish she would be, because she probably, I mean, we were just getting started with her. But anyway, so that is something that can be healed if people do the right steps. So they take care of your spine. A lot of that can, MS, it's an autoimmune problem, so that can tie in with your gut as well. So usually those two things in conjunction can see huge changes there.
What about those other similar type, I don't know, muscular dystrophy and blah, blah, blah? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so many of them that
Yeah.
I can't even think of the person that I know
Yeah.
that has something, but
Yeah.
I can't remember it.
Yeah.
Like Hashimoto's or something.
Yeah. So, I mean, all those things, I mean, chiropractic doesn't really treat any specific symptom or condition. But I do know that you're always going to be better off with pressure off your nerves and your body healing and functioning with a good nervous system and also a healthy gut than you will be without those things. So, usually, like I said, there's multiple different things that can cause that. If they're super toxic or, I mean, all these things. So if it's kind of a process to heal from that, but what I do know is that your body is designed to heal, and so if you can remove the interference and give it the opportunity to do that, then that's what it's going to do. Yeah. So, any other questions? Any questions online, webinar people?
Nope, we got them.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Well,
One question.
yeah.
When our children were growing up, tonsils were one of the biggest things that
Yeah.
they were getting rid of.
Yeah.
It's like that. So, and I agree with you, when you say that we were created to have those for a reason.
Yeah.
What is that, what can that be causing to?
Yeah, so your tonsils are like, that's your first line of defense a lot of times with your immune system. Breathing in, viruses or bacteria or whatever. And so when they remove those, then that does put kids more at risk for other issues like ear infections or, things like that, because, it affects your immune system.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. So sometimes swollen tonsils, like a lot of times they just take them out because they're swollen for a reason, because their body is fighting off inflammation or some sort of chronic infection. And so actually we were dealing with that a little bit with my son. And so all we did is we cut out the dairy and the gluten, and they're doing a lot better now. Yeah. So he's having a little bit of issues with snoring, and he doesn't have that really anymore. Yeah. So.
Is it bad when you sleep to snore? I
It's
have my mouth open. I don't even know that I'm
Yeah.
snoring. But
yeah, it's
so why am I doing that? I mean, is it bad?
it's going to affect your sleep. So if you're not getting restful, deep sleep, then your body's not going to be healing and repairing as well. So if people, I used to be under the mindset that it's always best to be sleeping on your back because that's what's best for your spine. But the more research I've done on sleep, if you have sleep apnea or you have issues snoring, it honestly might be better to sleep on your side. I don't recommend sleeping on your stomach, but to sleep on your side. And so that way you can still keep your spine somewhat healthy, but you're not having as much issues with the snoring. So, yeah. Yeah. So try to sleep. Do you sleep on your back?
On my side.
Oh, you sleep on your side and you still
I
snore?
have a little roll,
I don't know what to do for you then.
You're a phenomenon.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? All right, guys, well, thanks for coming. Hopefully you guys learned a lot. And if you'd like to set up an appointment to see the ladies at the front, or if you have any questions on these supplements, let us know.